The most prestigious Czech and Slovak virtual racing series is back. 20 of the best drivers from Czechia and Slovakia. 12 races at some of the most famous circuits in the world. Who is going to become the new champion? This is the Mercedes-Benz Virtual GP 2022 season. Hello and welcome back to the Mercedes-Benz Virtual GP 2022 season. We've returned from the summer break to resume this epic year of racing, and now we're turning things up to 11 for the second half with the single-seaters. My name is Justin Sutton, and joining me today, it is, of course, Chris Buxton.
We return to the home of British motorsport. It's Silverstone for round 7 and the first round in the Dallara IR18. This should be absolutely amazing. This is how we left the Drivers' Championship with Martin Stefanko with a comfortable comparatively lead over Lucas Prachada, but then look at Podstarter being chased hard by Sirotek as well for that now third position, and we've got points all the way down through the field. Lots of fighting going on, which is great to see, especially from a number of the new drivers that we've had this season. All the way down to the bottom, and a number of these drivers have changed, so there are some new names in this list that we haven't seen leading up to this point that we will go over very, very shortly. This is how the Teams Championship looked. ERT with a very slight lead over ESET. Entropic almost in no man's land, a few points behind, but then a very hot competition for fourth.
The Dallara IR18 is from 2020, 767 kilograms, 700 horsepower, almost 1 horsepower per kilogram, 410 newton meters of torque, a top speed of 375 kph from that 2.2 liter V6 twin turbo engine, capable of accelerating the car up to 100 kph in 3.2 seconds.
Okay, driver changes. So Miroslav Svoboda has been replaced, as you can see, by Lucas Podstarter. So not just driver changes in the field, it's between teams as well. So no longer is Podstarter in Entropic. He's been replaced there by Martin Kedlčík. And then in ESEC, Lubomir Moritz joins our championship leader, Martin Stefanko. Benzina Ronin is a complete change for the Benzina team. Alice Danda and Zdeněk Kaška is there in that team, along with Adam Pido for Mecca Raw for Sim.
Here are the conditions for today's race. 23 degrees Celsius air temperature, 33 degrees Celsius track temperature with pretty gusty winds, 13 miles per hour. And it is Lucas Prachada starting from pole position. Great way to start the second half of his season with the Entropic car alongside him. Martin Stefanko in third position. He's got Lucas Podstarter alongside him on the second row of the grid. Then comes David Prachada in the other ERT racing team. He's He's lined up alongside Adam Pilo, who manages to get himself on the third row of the grid in his first race of the season. Really impressive stuff. Svoboda doing well, getting into the top 10 for his new team as well. Lubomir Moritz back on the grid once again, managing to get up into 14th position. I'm very surprised to see Michael Lehman down at the bottom there, not setting a time. Neither did Nadlik, so they are going to be starting right at the back. They're going to be ones to watch for sure to see them making overtakes.
Look at that, Martin Kedlčík on the front row in his maiden race in the Entropic team. What a great start.
We're preparing to go racing here at Silverstone for the second half of the 2022 Mercedes-Benz Virtual GP season, and we are green, and already an unfortunate start there, actually, for the Entropic driver. He's going to slip down into 4th position. I think it's the former Entropic driver that moves ahead of him into 3rd, now in the Carvago car. I do believe that is Podstarter, who's taken up 3rd position in this race. Great start for him. Already contact at the back. That's one of the big shot cars, and it is Maricek who got caught up in that one. That's going to drop him way down to the back. I don't think the damage would have been severe, but he lost a lot of positions in time.
That he did, yeah. That, ladies and gentlemen, is Commentator Curse 101. Oh, yeah, I think you were saying the damage may not be too bad. Yeah. So it's Lucas Brachada and Martin Stefanko up front as we are looking a little bit further. Look at that! Michael Lehman, he had a rough qualifying. He's now in 10th. Struth alive. What a start. He's chasing Eric Vizzi, and there is, you are absolutely right, the former Entropic driver, now in his new team, Cavago, now up into third position. Yeah, commentators curse 101. I say how well that Kadlec qualified, and he had a horrendous start and got jumped down into fourth position by Stefanko and Podstarter, respectively. It's familiar names, but in new colours. That's gone very horribly wrong for Thomas Horror. That's both big shot cars in trouble. That's never what you want to see, but top four all screaming away. Now, you'll notice something on the tower. You're seeing the push to pass marker, that blue symbol appearing. So with these cars, they do have a limited number of push to pass, gives them a boost of power on demand, and also you can see the tyre indicators. It's not something we typically saw in the GT3 cars, but the red rim tyres are the softer compound and the black rim tyres are the harder compound. They will change those tyres in their pit stops, and those strategies really will come into play later on, although as you can see 9 of the top 10 all on the softer compound at this stage in time. There's Martin Nagley in 11th, chasing he brilliantly started Michael Lehman. As you would imagine, battles all over the place. There's Adam Pilo in the Mecha Racing car. There's Siratech now in the Entropic squad. I'm going to be getting the team names completely wrong as we're getting used to their new colours as well. I keep wanting to see Podstarter in the beautiful black and green colours, which of course he no longer is. But I get familiar names up front, but there's battling all to be had throughout the field.
Michael Lehman with that incredible start, worth remembering as well that is on the harder compound of tyre as well. So he is ahead of Nadlik, but I have a feeling he might be slowing Nadlik down. Similarly paced are the two of them, Michael Lehman and Nadlik. So I have a feeling Nadlik is probably the faster of the two. Yeah, you can see it's just a few tenths between the two of them. So Lehman at the moment is acting a little bit as the cork in the champagne bottle as he keeps Nadlik back. Oh, there we go. Nadlik uses some push to pass, moves himself up into that top 10 position from the back of the grid. Really unfortunate to see what happened with the two big shot cars, though, down in 19th and 20th position, firmly outside of the points and still stationary in the pits with pretty significant damage. It was rear wing damage for Thomas Hora and a loose wheel for Maricek. So I don't know if either of them will be coming back out on track, not without significant time spent in the pits with repairs. But up at the front, it is very much about the top 4 at the moment. Here is a replay of what happened to Maricek. This was the first of the 2 incidents that happened. Ooh, a little bit of blinking there. And I have a feeling he was on the brakes as much as he possibly could and, just had nowhere to go. I think he was already braking as hard as he possibly could at that stage, and the car just wouldn't slow down any harder than it already was, and he went careening into the back of the car ahead. So unfortunate for the entire Big Shock team, but yeah, I think that may be the end of Maricek's race.
Sad but true. There's never a way you want to see a race end, but that is the nature of the beast when the field is that heavily condensed. There is Kadlec, newcomer to not just the Entropic team, but to VGP as a whole. I believe this is the first time we've seen Kadlec throughout VGP's history, so making a strong name for himself. Martin Stefanko, however, is a name we're very, very familiar with. Has got a commanding grip of the championship lead at the moment, but his main rival Lucas Brachada is right ahead of him. Look at this. Alish Danda is as he's joined the Benzina Roland team just at the tail end of the first half of the season, is fighting off Lubomir Moritz in the ESET team. Oh my goodness me, how close do you want to be? Coming through Maggots, Beckett's, now Chapel, and on to the Hangers straight, screaming on down towards Stowe. Yeah, it is always worrying when the lag moments kick in and the competitors disappear. It does also disrupt the chasing car's slipstream as well, because when the car disappears... Oh, never mind about that particular sentence. David Brachada caught up in Adam Pilo's incident there, coming into the Vale chicane as the McAvoy sim car's trying to do a bit of off-roading to get back on the track. And David Brachada doing the right thing. He's compromised his own race. Oh, as he clouts the sausage curb on the inside line, coming through Club there. Oh, goodness me, he's compromised his own race to rejoin safety. It's the correct thing to do, but he must be so frustrated with that.
Yeah, that is the preferred thing to do, and his competitors will appreciate that to no end. And in the end, it'll probably save him time, as Lucas Pichota extending that gap. He actually, I noticed, deploying a bit of that push-to-pass down that straight, and was able to pull away a tenth or two from Stefanko. He's probably looking to try and break that slipstream if he possibly can, because of course the slipstream can be very powerful here at Silverstone. Nice long straights. Of course you have very high speed corners as well, so you can really pick up that dirty air effect as well. So it giveth and it taketh away when it comes to the aerodynamics coming off of the car ahead of you. But yeah, Lucas Pichota doing a great job of separating himself from the rest of the top four. Sirotech has started to drop off the back of his less experienced teammate. And you're right, by the way, Kadlacek is a rookie indeed to VGP, but he is experienced in sim racing. I think that much is clear by the fact that he qualified so well and is still running around in 4th position. So here's what happened to David Pichota in the lower down of the two ERT cars. Oh, he went for the move, lost the back end. Yeah, that's 100% on him, but also not intentional in any way. I don't think that would be a penalty or anything like that. He sent it up the inside and then lost the back end, which you can see.
That was Pino. That was Adam Pino that was going for the move. So it was Pino on the inside line. David Pichota was actually the one on the outside that just got caught. If I'm reading the colours correctly, of course, I stand to be corrected on that. But it was Adam Pino that outbraked himself on the inside line coming into the first chicane. As we now look at Lubomir Moritz trying to, my goodness me, that's a big move there. That's Pilo. That's the Mecha for All 4 sim car on his recovery drive. That was a big move on the outside line coming through Village, so the first heavy braking zone of the lap. The track is certainly plenty wide enough to get those moves done safely without having to really cause any risk, but it's still quite a big move to do. But then you have the inside line towards the loop, so it was a good move, nicely executed by Adam Pilo then, as he now sets his sights on Anish Danda in the first of the Benzina Roland cars directly ahead of him. So yeah, Lubomir Moritz is probably just settling into his rhythm at the moment. Anish Danda on the harder tyres at the moment. He's on the black accented tyres, so he won't be able to put up too much of a defence, but may indeed just choose not to. He knows that, or he'll probably guess by the rate of closure, that Adam Pilo is on the softer tyres and possibly won't choose to defend. And along the hanger straight, there's only a very limited amount of defence you can do. Here he comes then, straightforward move, probably would have pushed it. Yeah, there was indeed push to pass used at the same time there, inside line of Stowe. It's a very common overtaking spot, and there's no point trying to defend it. You can try and banzai the inside of Vale, but as Adam Pilo rather proved, it is a big risky move to take. So he opts not to deal with it, but my goodness me, Adam Pilo, even I grant you he's on the softer tyres, but he's not hanging around. He's really pressing on to try and make up for lost time. He does run the risk of overdriving the car, though. If he pushes that a little bit too hard, he'll then just be off into the dust, because as fast as these cars are, as much as they do have a lot of downforce on them, if they start to go, good luck catching that. It will just bite you. The GT3 cars that we bid a fond farewell to in Germany on round 6, they do have a little bit of leniency. If the tail starts to give up, you can catch it. With these things, I mean, you can, but good luck. They are distinctly more difficult to drive.
Yeah, you're going to need lightning reflex skills and probably a higher end piece of hardware between your hands as well in order to catch something like that as well. So yeah, not the easiest thing to do whatsoever. Up at the front, Lucas Pichota still maintaining slightly more than 1 second. We saw that gap build out to a little over a second, but Martin Stefanko's gotten that back down to, or he did at 1 second. I wonder if he's running a higher downforce setup, because he got quite a bit closer through Sector 2, but then immediately as we get onto the straight, you can see Stefanko starting to lose out pretty massively, as there we go, Hermach and Vizzy going side by side through Stowe. It's not such a bad thing to be on the outside of Stowe, because of course that does get you the inside line into this next left-hander, and it looks like Hermach is going to be able to come out on top in that battle in this one instance. Oh, but it's very, very close. Vizzy thinks about sending it up the inside through the final corner, which is really not an overtaking location, side by side into turn 1. Eric Vizzy gives him the space, but Hermach given the space as well. Hermach has been a very very, very respectful driver all throughout this entire season, so I'm not surprised at all to see him once again providing just enough space for his competitors. He's really not sure what to do because he's got another Lenovo Legion right behind him. He's lost out on one position, and he's got to be very cognizant about the other Lenovo Legion, otherwise he might lose out on a second one.
And here we go. He's a lot of slipstreaming going on there. That's going to force Hermot to the outside line coming through Brooklands. That's never usually ideal. It does give you the inside line for Luffield, but it's wide enough, as was being proven here, to go side by side. And that is then bringing in, that's Michael Lehman right behind them, the second of the mech of all four sim cars. Still side by side now, as we've left Luffield screaming on towards Cops. We've been side by side through Woodcote and then cut back underneath. Oh, what a move! Hermot thought he had that one covered off. A very well-timed attack then for the now 8th place, I beg your pardon, now 7th placed Martin Nadley, reuniting the Lenovo Legion cars, and Michael Lehman had the best seat of the house for that entire battle that he's now involved with.
You got to see exactly how it's done. He's going to deploy some push-to-pass here. Again, remember, these on the harder compound of tires, but they might be holding up better at this stage of the race with that push-to-pass, with the inside line through Stowe. With those harder tires, he is able to make that position up, and he's now up into 8th. A 141.2 last lap for Michael Lehman. I'm very curious to see what it is this lap. Again, that is with the assistance of a little bit of push-to-pass as well. But still, these are very, very quick lap times. That's with some battling, that 142.1. But Michael Lehman is very nearly lapping at the same sort of times that we're seeing from the top 4, and that's with the hard tires on. So clearly the soft compound is not lasting all that well here at Silverstone. I guess we should have probably expected that. This is a bit of a tire killer, isn't it?
Yeah, these soft tyres, especially with the car so heavy, is great for getting you away from the pack, but then if most of the pack are on soft tyres, which you can clearly see over half of them are, then that advantage is somewhat mitigated. It's rather down to how heavy your right foot is and how big your fortitude is, shall we say, on moves that people are trying to make. And there are some very, very brave people that are making the moves stick, as we are now looking at this battle for second position. Stefanko's got himself, about 0.7 of a second breathing space between himself and Podstarter, who doesn't have the same luxury between himself and newcomer Kadlacek. Now coming onto the hangar straight. Slipstreaming these cars, I always kind of use the rule, it's around 0.8 of a second for slipstream to become effective, and that's true for most cars. These, because they're very downforce heavy, you might pick up a little bit outside of that, but it's unlikely. So drivers will be aiming to stay within 0.8 if nothing else, although that's distinctly not 0.8 between Michael Lehman and Martin Nadley, because they are now coming down to the verticane. Whoa, that was very, very close. I wondered if Hermot was actually going to bury his nose into Michael Lehman's diffuser at that point last time around, but Michael Lehman, he's probably pushed those tyres a little bit too hard. They're probably quite hot at this point. So he's of course, that's how much time he's lost due to that one little mistake. He had to go very, very deep into the Vale chicane. He could well close down the two ahead of him, but the Lenovo Legion cars are not likely to fight one another. They're on the same tyre strategy, it would seem. Unlike other single-seater categories, they don't have shared pit boxes, so they can both come in at the same time if they so felt like it, although we're just seen at the bottom of the shot there, Nadley having a look on the inside line. It looks like they're fighting one another, so that's not ideal, teammates. You really should be working together. But they're still going through Brooklands, through Brooklands, through Luffield, and still going through Woodcote. I'd understand if they weren't teammates, but they really ought to be working together. But Martin Nadley is wanting to kind of prove his own worth by his own standards, but that's allowed Michael Lehman to get back into his rhythm, and he's left Hermot behind in the Cavago car, and now Michael Lehman is very much involved in this battle again. I don't think Lenovo Legion have done themselves any favours this time around.
No, I think they did themselves a bit of a disservice. I think you're right about that one. And Michael Lehman deploying that push-to-pass is looking to dispatch one of those two Lenovo Legion cars right away. Maybe even the second one. He's thinking about it. I wanted to say Michael Lehman is quite an aggressive driver. I don't mean that he's dangerous in any way, as both Lenovo Legions pull off into the pits. Again, remember, if anybody's new, the cars all have their own dedicated pit boxes. They don't have to double stack or anything like that, so they're not in any danger or anything. But Michael Lehman stays out. No surprises there. Obviously still in the hard compound of tire. But yeah, Lehman is quite an aggressive driver. Not a dangerous driver, but he is an aggressive driver. He will get the elbows out. And it's not just with the other cars, it's with the tires. He gets aggressive with the tires as well, too. So you're exactly right when you said he may have overdriven the tires, overheated them a little bit. I do feel like that is kind of the Michael Lehman school of driving right there to get really aggressive both with the tires, with your opponents, with everything, but in a safe kind of way. I cannot for the life of me think of a time where he's maybe overstepped that boundary, but Michael Lehman is definitely somebody that will he'll put you into a position where you might feel uncomfortable going side by side through a certain corner. He has no care in the world when it comes to that sort of stuff. He'll go side by side through absolutely any corner, and if there's a couple of teammates battling ahead of him, you can be sure he will try to overtake both of them if he can at the same time. So I have to say, the first stint is going really, really well for Michael Lehman, considering how far back he started. And of course, Nadlik also started from the back and had a really good first stint. But I think Lehman is having a slightly better race of the two because, again, he started on that harder tire compound, but he was right there with Nadlik when Nadlik came into the pit. So he's going to have to make an overtake on track, I would assume. He is going to be lighter with fuel than Nadlik as Nadlik comes out with his fresh hard compound tires. So it'd be very interesting to see how that plays out. But I think Lehman is in a very good place with 38 minutes remaining.
Does this graphic not prove the point? 18th Lehman started, and he's now in 6th. What a stormy start, and as you say, on the harder tyres as well, as now Kodiak is looking like he could well be putting pressure on Podstarter for that third position.
Awkward.
The seat that, as one has vacated the spot, he's now going to be leapfrog coming down towards Brooklands, and a fairly straightforward move there from Kodiak. Now Podstarter, as well we know, obviously being the champion in 2021, he's no stranger to having to deal with pressures as Lubomir Moritz now in the ESET car has just come out of the pits following his stop. Podstarter, he won't be too worried about that. He'll know that he can attack back at a later time, but it's never ideal to be losing positions, and there may well be a little bit of, that was my car, why is it now doing better in someone else's hand? But that thought may well not have got into his head. Also something that I'd actually forgotten from last season, but these cars have the halo and they have the aero screen on them. I mean, that's safety taken very seriously. Usually it's one or the other, but these cars have both. As we now ride on board with Benzina Ron and newcomer Kashka chasing off after Thomas Hermog. Hermog defending the inside line as our race leader comes in, and my goodness, the Benzina Ron car throwing that one into Stowe, but with the inside line, the Kavaga car does manage to fend that off. Does he come in? Oh, they both do. A lot of the soft runners now coming in. Actually, top 5. There you go. There is 4 of the top 5 in that camera shot. In fact, everybody in the top 10 on the soft tyres has actually come in. That's going to hand the lead over to this man, the Mecha All-4 Sim car, Michael Lehman, charging on, exactly as you said, Justin, with really strong pace on those hard tyres, is now going to continue for at a rough guess, probably another 10 minutes on those tyres, as now the pit stops are being completed. There's Kodiak now in 6th position, because of course there's the hard runners, hard starters I should say, have not come in yet. There's Podstarter now in 7th, fending off, that's Jan Brunner's around there somewhere. Jan Brunner's actually the next car down, so the Entropic car is still keeping the Kavaga car at bay. Slightly further up the road, there's Stefanko, now with David Prachada ahead of him. So David, again, curious that he didn't pit with the rest of the soft starters. That's going to hold Stefanko up, and that's probably why. So David Prachada acting as a bit of a rear gunner to his brother, side by side now, and bearing in mind that Stefanko has changed his tyres. He's going to be on the inside line. Nothing David Prachada can do here. He can make Martin's... Well, he made Stefanko think about it. Stefanko couldn't barrel into Kops as much as he would have liked because David Prachada was there. This is exactly what David Prachada's doing. And whilst he's not shown quite the pace of his brother, he's always played the team game brilliantly well. And he is now doing as much as he can can within the rules, within the letter of the law, of course, to keep Stefanko at bay. He's now going to make Stefanko, the ESO car, go the long way around Stowe, and is he going to be able to do it? Oh, that's getting close, and there we go, and David Pritchard now peels in, and for his task is done, essentially. He's given Stefanko, he's given his brother a good second and a half, maybe. Yeah. So that was exactly what he was aiming to do.
Yeah, I think he picked up that second just through Maggots and Beckett's, honestly, actually. I don't even think Stowe had too much, because, it was already second and a half, approaching 2 seconds. So, yeah, that was absolutely huge, and Lucas is definitely gonna owe his brother something for that one, because, that was huge, very, very helpful. We'll see whether or not that ends up paying dividends later in the race, because, of course, Martin Stefanko now has 34 minutes, darn near 34 minutes, to try and make up a, less than 2 second gap, which, let's be honest, he is, he's currently leading the championship. He's having a heck of a season. He's turned into an incredible driver over the years that he's participated in VGP and outside VGP and other series and all that kind of stuff. So, if there's a driver that can do it, Stefanko is definitely one of them. So we'll keep an eye on that. As I mentioned before, though, it seems to me that Stefanko is running a higher downforce setup. So in like this part of the lap, you'll see him get a little bit closer through Maggots and Beckett's and Chapel. But then as soon as they get onto the Hangar Straight or the Hamilton Straight or the Wellington Straight or the run out of Luffield down towards Copse, that's when you see that gap start to increase. And it was even increasing, I noticed, even when Stefanko was getting the slipstream. Even then, he was still losing out on the straights to Lucas Pichota. So very, very low downforce setup. Here we go with Pilo, who's going to get the overtake done, moves himself up into ninth ahead of Hermach before the corner, before they even got into the braking zone. Very straightforward maneuver there. I wonder if Hermach actually had just a very, very tiny mistake coming through Beckett's or Chapel that just hindered him ever so slightly, or maybe he's running low on push to pass, and that's just putting him under threat. But the downside to Pilo making an overtake that easily is that now Kashka and Danda are going to be looking at that position and saying, maybe a top 10 is on the cards here.
Could well be. And we still got over half an hour of this race as it continues to unfold. I'm wondering whether people are... Because I'm looking at Michael Lehman. He's been in the pits. We saw him come out, but he's still on hard tyres. So it could be that he's gone onto another set of hards. I would imagine he's going to have to go onto the soft at some point before the race is done. But we have seen, exactly as you were saying, Justin, just how quickly those soft tyres just absolutely disintegrate with these cars at this circuit in these temperatures. So it could be that he's just not confident that those soft tyres are going to be up to much good. There is Svoboda now in the Puma team. Wasn't the Cavago squad, now over in the Jet Black Puma team. So, one of our more impressive newcomers, debutants for this season, as he's now chasing Jan Brunner in the Navatel car. It's down in 16th at the moment. Svoboda, according to the tower, the only man still on soft tyres at this point in the race, but if he started on them, then they will be absolutely screaming by now. Of course, with different tyre strategies going on, it's absolutely impossible to keep up with who's been in and who's going on to what strategy. But hello, that's Eric Vizzi having an argument with... Adam Pilo that's actually taken the 8th position spot from the Lenovo car. My goodness me. Adam is he's under a lot of pressure. He's got both of the... beg your pardon, he's got Eric Vizzi and Thomas Hermach right behind. Now we saw Pilo and Hermach having the argument. Now Eric Vizzi's getting involved in that particular scrap. So Adam Pilo now up to 8th position, and then right behind them is both of the Orlena Benson... Orlen Benzina cars, Orlena Benson cars, I just said then. Muddling up the sponsor names there, apologies there. So Kashka and Danda is right behind, riding on board with the Cavago car of Thomas Hermach. Is he going to try and banzai that one? No, he possibly thought about it, but he wasn't gaining enough to throw that one on the inside of Brooklands. Now coming through Luffield, and then the fast right-hander as he nearly taps the back of Eric Vizzi. But doesn't make impact just yet, but they're very, very close. On the nose camera of the Cavago car, there is, and we now come through Copse. A little bit of a lift there. But that's the concertina effect, as of course the Lenovo Legion car has to lift slightly earlier than the Carvago car and therefore gets on the gas slightly earlier. That's how the concertina effect works. Oh, I did wonder whether he was going to think about a move through Maggotts and Beckett's. It is possible, but it's really, really dangerous to make a move there unless the driver ahead makes a mistake. I think that was just a different line being adopted there by Eric Vizzi. I don't think it was a mistake or anything like that. But, well observed there by Thomas Hermark as they now sweep through Stowe, heading down towards the Vale chicane. No movement in this pack yet, but this is fantastic stuff.
Really, really enjoyable battling. 5-way battle, in fact, for that 8th place position. I hadn't even noticed. I was so focused on that battle for 8th position. Martin Stefanko has indeed closed that gap down to less than a second, or it was briefly less than a second, down to Lucas Pichota. So he has he's closed that gap down pretty significantly. Kadlacek is at a similar distance actually, and then Podstad similar sort of distance as well. He really hasn't been able to get on the offensive, has Podstad, ever since losing that 3rd place position, but neither is he falling outside of this field or anything like that. So I wonder if he's just holding back maybe for an attack later in the race. Maybe he's saving his push to pass, saving his tires, that kind of stuff. And yeah, I think you're right about Lehman. We talked before about how he has a bit of an aggressive driving style when it comes to just the way that he attacks corners and treats the tires and all that kind of stuff. So he may have, in his testing, because I would imagine he's done testing just like the majority of the drivers, if not all of the drivers, probably extensive testing, in fact. But I would imagine in his testing he probably found that actually the 2-stop is quicker for him. I don't know if he would have factored in traffic into those calculations, because of course when you stop a second time it means you have to do a heck of a lot more overtaking in order to get back into the same position that you would have been in otherwise. As we see Adam Pilo deploying a bit of push to pass there, he's just trying to pull away, and he has done actually. He has pulled away a little bit from Eric Vizzi, and he's closed that gap down a little bit to Michael Lehman actually. So interestingly, Michael Lehman seems to be falling off on this second stage, but again, he still has the softs to fit, so he could. But he also has another stop to make as well, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out for him.
Yeah, absolutely. So something to bear in mind. Like for instance, we're looking at Martin Stefanko. The tyres on the car are red accented, so would indicate soft. Yeah, on the tower they are hard. It's actually correct in the tower.
Yes.
So just bear that in mind. If that looks confusing, that is why. It's the graphic on the car essentially shows what they started with, but that's not necessarily the tyre compound they are on at this moment. The tower is always correct, but just to clarify, yes, they do have to run both compounds of tyres. So if anyone's gone, like Michael Lehman has, hard to hard, they will be back in the pits later on, which would indicate that everybody is likely to be in at least twice. But we will see. Some people may try and make the tyres last a little bit longer, but at Silverstone I'm not too convinced you're going to go for that, because Silverstone has one of the shorter pit lane losses because of where the pit lane entrance is. It's on the run down to the Vale chicane, so you cut out the Vale and Club corners completely. So the actual pit lane loss is a bit shorter in Silverstone, so therefore trying to make the tyres last longer gives you a smaller advantage. But we will see. But Stefanko, as is true Stefanko style, if he's not leading by the time he comes out of the pits of the first pit stop, he tends to just absolutely go savage when the pit stops happen to close that gap down. Now, bearing in mind that was nearly 2 seconds after David Ricciardo did his best to hold the mighty Stefanko back, and now it is quite clearly almost under half a second, as there is Schembera in the second of the Novotel cars. We were looking at Jan Brunner, his teammate, a little earlier on. Schembera completely on his own in the green and white car, as he himself coming through Vale chicane now into Club and to complete another lap. He's about 5 seconds behind David Ricciardo, and you can see the cars just at the top of the shot of who's already behind. As we jump back to our lead battle then, Lucas Pichota now with his rearview mirrors completely full of the ever familiar nose of the ESET car of Martin Stefanko.
I hope we get to go on board on the nose through Maggotts, Beckett's, and Chapel again, because I have to say I was a big fan of that view through that section of track. That was absolutely mega. This is nearly as good as we get the kind of over-the-shoulder shot riding on board with Martin Stefenko. It's great, especially to go on board with the leaders as well, because oftentimes, they have that few tenths extra advantage over the rest of the field, and you just get to see that kind of like perfection in motion. I'm sure there's a few hundredths, maybe a tenth or two still to be found. They're always on that hunt for the extra tenths and stuff, but this is about as good as it gets, and it's great to see the likes of Kadlicek coming in and just immediately being on the pace, and I think that is by virtue of VGP switching to iRacing. In recent seasons, when we were using Assetto Corsa, it was great. It was beautiful. It had its strengths, of course, but it was a little bit more of a niche platform compared to iRacing, which is so well known in the sim racing community that you have the benefit of rookies being able to come in. And they're already familiar with the tire model. They're already familiar with the tracks. So they're already familiar with the pit procedures and all that kind of stuff and how to change their tires and everything. And they're able to come in and just immediately be up to podium level pace, apparently. But it's great to see because you don't have that same kind of teething period that you might have for a lesser known sim. So it's really, really great to see Kadlicek up at the front. He hasn't really been, applying pressure to Stefenko for second position. We haven't really seen that sort of thing. It's really been Stefenko that's been going on the offensive. We did see Kadlicek make that overtake on Podstata, of course, earlier on, but he's really been sort of comfortable in that third place position. Hasn't been applying tons and tons of pressure, but as we get closer to the end of the race and as Pochada and Stefenko start battling, I have a feeling we might see that Entropic car start to get the elbows out.
And that's the thing, this isn't what Stefenko wants. He doesn't want pressure from behind. Podstata, amazingly, he's over 2 seconds back. Oh, Stefenko goes a bit too deep into the Vale chicane. Is this an opportunity for Kadlicek? Now, he could try and bounce on the inside of the club, but he didn't have enough time to do it. But that's given Lucas Pochada, again, we saw how expensive these mistakes are earlier on. And look at that, the championship leader has made a very, very rare mistake there and given Lucas Pochada a huge amount of breathing space. Didn't make too many friends with the apex there coming through Village, and he's gone for a wider entry into the loop there, whereas Kadlicek hugged that inside line a little bit closer, but now very much in the slipstream of the ESET car. Is he going to try and make a move this time around? I suspect not. He may well just choose to stay in that slipstream, but that's also going to give Podstata an opportunity if Stefenko and Kadlicek start arguing. Podstata, there he is at the bottom of the shot there, you can see on the helicam. He could well get back into this particular battle. Again, we don't know what tyre strategies everybody is running here. If people aren't going to be coming into the pits again, they may well just be biding their time on these harder tyres. We saw how strong or how comfortable Podstata looked on the softer tyres earlier on. If he goes on to soft tyres towards the end of the race, he could well really mount a challenge for those top spots. Yeah, we will see. As again, Kadlicek looks like he's a bit more comfortable or a little bit quicker than Stefenko. Quicker than Stefenko, those words seem mutually exclusive in my head, but he does seem a little bit more comfortable coming through Mackens and Beckett's than the ESET car does. The last couple of laps, that's where the Entropic car has gained. And then on the run down towards the Vale chicane, Stefenko is able to start to open that gap back up again. I suspect that's a setup difference. Oh, that's not ideal. Kadlicek has cut that corner a little bit too close. He's not cut it as in illegally done so, but he's gone too close to the apex. He's caught that sausage curb, and that's just unsettled the car. That's going to release Stefenko to start to go after Pochada again. And then Podstata, he's starting to close in again. That gap is starting to come down from the Cavago car.
I did mention before that Podstata very possibly is just holding back. I have not seen any sort of push to pass, but also I've seen very sparing push to pass being used by any of the top four. I thought we might see, after Stefenko made that little mistake, I thought we might see Lucas Pochada, for example, using a bit of the push to pass down the Wellington straight. But no, he did not actually. I thought he might try to press the advantage. But no, I think he's more concerned about being caught out without push to pass than he is about the gap behind. So he seems quite comfortable in his ability to stay ahead of Stefanko. And again, that could be by virtue of setup difference. I did earlier on. So here we go. So look at the gap, 0.7, just under 0.8 between the two of them. I think you're going to see Stefanko close that down through the corners here. Pretty significantly, in fact, as we found out there. Almost a tenth and a half we saw. And then now as we get onto the straight, I think you're going to see Lucas Pichota start to pull that gap out again. You can see it just getting bigger and bigger. It's by small amounts, but it's worth remembering Stefanko is the car that's in the dirty air. He should be getting closer on the straights, not farther away. Oh, and he pits! Now that's a miss. I really was not expecting that.
All the hards will last a bit longer than that, but Stefanko is choosing to do something different. I mean, how many times has he caught us out with what would look like a strange pit stop strategy and just made it work? You know, he started on the softs. This will be another set of hards, I would think. Martin Nadlik in as well.
Must be.
I would imagine this is going to be his another stop for the harder tyres, which will see him to the end of the race, which means he'll probably push a little bit to start with, but he'll need to keep an eye on those towards the end of the race. So obviously, the longer the race goes on, the lighter the car becomes, as more the fuel burns off. But where's this going to put Stefanko, though? He's not. He's about, what is he, about 4 seconds behind Pilo, according to the tower. So he's not got slipstream from anybody. He's just kind of minding his own business, which means if he wants to start getting slipstream off of anybody, he's going to have to push quite hard or hope that somebody pits from the kind of top bracket he was chasing and then comes out already ahead. But yeah, you can see the push to pass marker, which isn't always entirely reflective of when they use them. Unfortunately, it's not 100% accurate. But yeah, we just saw there that Stefanko is starting to press on to try and get those tyres up to operating temperature quickly and get himself back in the fight as quickly as he can. Also, is this an opportunity for Kadlacek, now up into second place, to really press on to, one, break the slipstream to pod starter, and to then start to put pressure on Lucas Pichota? Yeah, we got push to pass on the Entropic car along the hangar straight. So that would indicate that he's doing exactly what I've just mentioned. He wants to try and maximize the time that Stefanko is in the pits, or obviously the difference between his strategy and Stefanko's, to try and then close up on to... No, never mind! He's banzaied into the pits. Unfortunately, you can't see the pit lane exit until they've committed to it. Now, that's interesting. So Kadlacek is going for a similar kind of idea to Stefanko. So we'll see whether his outlap, or his inlap, beg your pardon, was enough to overcome the ESET car.
Stefanko using push to pass as well, by the way. I don't know if he has a race engineer, but he may have been told that Kadlacek was pushing on that in-lap. Kadlacek now stationary in the pits, obviously, getting service done. There's Stefanko coming down the start-finish straight now, heading down towards turn one. Kadlacek moving close in the pits. He's going to go around the outside. Stefanko is going to be ahead. He's going to have more speed as well, too. So he's going to comfortably be ahead of Kadlacek still as he comes out of the pits. But Stefanko now moves up into fourth position as a result of that. Kadlacek now down into fifth. They have Lehman ahead, who has already been into the pits once, but he's got to go into the pits again, so Lehman is definitely going to be dropping out. I'm curious to see if Pichota or Podstata are looking to continue. Maybe this is why Pichota has been driving around in sort of a more reserved kind of manner. I mentioned earlier that he was kind of holding back, or seemingly holding back, and it may be, for this exact moment, it may be that he's just looking to actually turn this into a one-stop race. But it does seem that 2 stops is not just a niche strategy choice for this race, but may in fact be the popular strategy choice for this race.
We will see. I mean, if that's the case, then he's going to have to be very delicate with those tyres. Nope, that's not what he was thinking at all. Nope. In he comes. Now, did Pod Starter, we couldn't quite see from that angle, did he follow him in? Yes, he did. Yes. So the top two are then going on to another set of hard tyres. I also wonder whether he was going to try and stretch out for another set of softs. But again, we've identified how much of a tyre muncher Silverstone is. Now, the emphasis, as we see Stefanko on the left-hand side, has Stefanko pushed enough to undercut Lucas Pichota? That is going to be the question. Now, we saw that he came out ahead of Kadlacek. Is he going to come out ahead of Lucas Pichota?
Oh, it's going to be close.
I think he is. Oh, so he's done it again. He has done it again. What did I say earlier? Stefanko just has this ability to press on. Lucas Pichota has gone on to soft tyres, though.
He has.
That's a gamble. I think that's a gamble. We'll see if they can last. well, I guess they kind of lasted the first 15-ish minutes on heavy cars. So this, Lucas Pachada has made a gamble here. You can see he's the only one. Adam Pilo is also on soft tyres, so I beg your pardon. He's one of 2 drivers in the top 10 to be on soft tyres at this point. Now, they'll heat up quicker, they'll give him quite a bit more grip for a while. But when they fall off, they're going to fall away very, very hard. So I would imagine what Lucas is going to try to do is get ahead of Martin Stefanko and then hold the gap. He'll build it up to about second and a half maybe, and then keep it there to try and preserve those softer tyres. But also keep an eye on, as we now look at Michael Lehman, he's still got to go onto those softer tyres.
Yep.
That's the second set of softs for Lucas Pachada, as he's now using push to pass to try and close in on Martin Stefanko. And again, if Stefanko's aware of the tyre difference, he may opt to not fight right now and to try and attack Lucas Pachada by the end. Fantastic stuff. Usually by now the field is kind of dissipated enough that for the last 4 races it's been Stefanko running off into the sunset. Oh, he's going to have to work hard for it this time.
Yeah, this is really heated up here. This is really interesting stuff now as Michael Lehman comes into the pits. So that oh, here we go. Around the outside at turn 1. He is not hanging around that for this. That becomes the inside line for Farm, and that completes the move. And I was going to say, if I'm Stefanko, I'm going to try and keep him behind for as long as possible and just try and burn through those soft tires as Pilo sets the fastest lap with a 1:39.1. That's not just quick. That's unbelievably rapid. That is super, super fast for Adam Pilo. And that's going to draw him a little bit closer to that top 5, maybe allow him to pull away from Martin Nadlik. And that's Stefanko just going offline ever so slightly, maybe just having some trouble getting some heat into those tires. He had a really, really good in-lap. And then some really good laps, but now he just seems to be struggling a little bit. But again, Lucas Pachada is going to be very, very quick right now. And also, remember, Stefanko has a little bit more downforce compared to Lucas Pachada, so this is very interesting the way this has shaped up. And I have a feeling, though, Kadlicek is going to, like I said before, I think he is going to start to get more aggressive as this race goes on. You can see Stefanko deploying a bit of push to pass, wants to build that gap a little bit, puts Stada lurking in the background as well, too. He is, one of the most menacing drivers on the grid. I know he's been sitting around in 4th position for a lot of the race, but still, he is a force to be reckoned with. And when he decides that he wants to try and get into that top 3, they're going to have to watch out as Kashka now moves Hermach down into 10th position. It's been a rough race for Hermach, who qualified really, really well, and then has been kind of falling down through the field, but he's going to fight back on this one, actually. Deploys that push to pass, goes around the outside at Stowe. Remember, that becomes the inside line, though, for Vale, and that is going to complete the re-overtake for 9th position. I have to say, Hermach has been one of my favorite drivers throughout this season. He's a really good battler. I've never seen him do anything wrong in a dogfight or anything like that. But I do fear, at least temporarily, this has now turned into a 3-way fight, but I think it might be a very exciting 3-way fight that we're about to have.
Oh, you're damn right. You're damn right there.
I'm hyped.
Now, it's interesting what you say about Stefanko. When if you were in his position, you'd have tried to have kept Lucas Pachada behind. And not for the first time in our VGP career, although very rarely. I actually disagree. If I was Stefanko's position, if I had known Lucas Pachada was on the softer tyres, I'd have let him go.
Yeah.
On the basis of they're going to drop off pretty quickly, as we see again Kashka attacking Hermog, this time on the inside line coming through Brooklands. He's going to want to try to close the door before Luffield. Couldn't quite do it. That's going to allow the Cavago car to try and attack back. No, Kashka
Nice.
had the drive on the exit of Luffield. Very nicely done. That was a great move as well from Kashka, coming through Mackers and Beckett. Side by side there is not easy. The road does narrow up a little bit as we now see the 3 of the top 4, as it looks like Stefanko is having to play defensive. How rare is that? Always feels alien to say those words, quite frankly, but he's having to play defense. Not just against Kadlicek, but Podstarter is lurking there as well. That is helping Lucas Pachada hand over fist. 2.5 seconds to the good for the ERT Racing ace. And there he goes, just going out of the shot now. So Also, Lucas was probably gambling on the fact that these three would fight very, very hard. So now Lucas has got a bit of a dilemma. Does he continue to push and to give himself as big a gap as he can for when his tyres do inevitably drop off? Or does he, like I thought he would earlier, just keep that gap, let these three fight and just maintain his own pace? Stefanko defends the inside line now, coming up into Brooklands, and the Entropic car can't do anything about it just yet. Oh, Justin, what a fight we've got ahead of us.
Kadlecek, I think, is playing this very safe. I mean, he's come into this season in the mid-season, literally like the middle point of the season. He's brand new. He may have, so he does do Czech sim racing competitions, so he may have raced against a lot of the drivers on this grid at some point, but it's difficult. I don't know personally who he's raced up against, so I don't know if he's just holding back a little bit, if he's worried about how to, I think he might be sizing Stefanko up still, potentially, which I like. I respect that massively as well, because he does seem to have the extra pace. He does seem to be that little bit faster than Stefanko, but I think he might be holding back ever so slightly. Not much, ever so slightly, just enough, but it's this really delicate balance, and he's balancing it so well right now. I'm hugely impressed with the drive that I've seen from Kadlecek all race long, but at this stage in particular, where he's piling the pressure onto Stefanko and soaking up the pressure from Podstata simultaneously. Oh man, what a drive. I know Podstata's off leading the race and stuff, but Kadlecek is hugely impressive right now.
Yeah, 100%. He's got the champion behind, the champion elect in front of him, as we now see Eric Vizzi having an argument for 12th position over David Pichada. Not the first time these two have crossed swords, but of course David Pichada having that big spin early in the race that dropped him nearly to the back of the field. He's even wriggling around to try and either get some heat into the tyres, which I'd be surprised because he's on soft. Oh, and that's the Entropic car going very, very deep into, that's Luffield that they're now going through. I wondered if he was going off the road there, but he managed just about to keep Podstata at bay, but that's given Stefanko some breathing space. That's not what you want to do. If you give Stefanko even a few pixels opportunity, he is going to disappear. So Kadlecek doing exactly what he can to stay in the tyre tracks of the ESET car whilst keeping Podstata behind. Hugely impressed with Kadlecek's performance so far.
By the way, I've been keeping an eye on Pilo and Lehman, the two Mecha All for Sim cars, because they're very close to one another, first of all, but also because they're on the softs, just like Lucas Pichada. So I'm able to sort of see a delta to how they're performing, and they are actually lapping faster than Lucas Pichada. Who knows if Lucas is holding back? He might be doing that as Podstata goes on the offensive, Kadlecek on the defensive, but no side-by-side action for the meantime. But still, the two Mecha All for Sim cars are lapping very, very quickly at the moment. So I don't know if they've got enough time to actually close up to the back of Sirotech, who has had the quietest race, I think, of all time as Sirotech, but it's still a very solid top 5 for him. A great day for Entropic with both their cars in the top 5, but Mecha All for Sim also having a great day with their cars in 6th and 7th. I don't know what kind of relationship Pilo and Lehman have, but I hope it's good because they are very close to each other on track.
Very close indeed. As Podstata always looks... Well, I mean, we don't always see the full picture, of course, from that small webcam shot, but for the most time, he always looks fairly relaxed, but I would imagine he's really pressing on. Kadlecek does have this kind of strange style of keeping his head tilted to the side no matter which direction he's turning it. This is a bit strange. Oh, here's Thomas Hermock again attacking Kashka for 9th place along the Wellington straight, then coming down into Brooklands, the inside line for the Carvago car, but Kashka is defending that one once the inside line, almost sliding off the road, trying to hang on to the inside of Luffield, but has Hermock got the drive he needs? Oh, just! Only just, but hung on to that one for 9th place, and that's bringing the next two cars, which is Kashka's teammate Anders Dander and David Pichada potentially into this fight as well. Oh, this is fantastic. Battles absolutely everywhere. And the race is flying by. We've got less than 6 minutes to go.
Lehman's going on the attack as well, too. But I have to say, Kashka and Hermock is a highlight for me today. The battling between them is just really, really respectful. No hint of collision or anything like that. And that is my kind of... I get Sorry, I even hit my mute button on my microphone. I get so excited watching the two of them. But yeah, Kashka and Hermach has been a real pleasure to watch. I don't know if you saw on that previous lap, Stefanko deploying a bit of push to pass to try and defend from Kadlacek, who deployed some push to pass to try and make the overtake, or possibly just defend from Podstata. But that gap is starting to come down now on Lucas Pichota. But is it enough? Less than 3 seconds is the gap, but only 5 minutes remaining in the race.
Has Lucas Pichota done what he needs to do? I mean, that gap is now starting to come down. The best of those soft tyres probably has gone, but I would imagine also Lucas has probably backed off a little bit. Some of that gap would be down to the fact that that pack of three are fighting very hard. So Lucas is doing what I thought he'd do. He's made a gap and then he's trying to either maintain it or maybe just ease off the gas enough so the gap doesn't decrease enough for him to be in trouble by the time the checkered flag falls. I mean, it still carries the risk of, if Lucas makes a mistake, he's got less time to recover from it, but that's the nature of racing, obviously. But also, I would think Lucas Pichota was banking on the fact that those three would fight, and that's exactly what they've been doing. And still that pack are very closely condensed as we continue to look at the Mecha, all for Simper. I mean, they're not really fighting one another. I did wonder, like you were saying earlier, the soft runners doing very well at this stage. I did wonder if Michael Lehman was going to be able to be more towards this pack, but that's not the way his race has gone, unfortunately. Now this three have condensed up again. You can imagine with only a few laps remaining that they are going to fight. Absolutely so. With 140, what's that? 3 laps-ish to go, give or take. Now there's going to be nothing left on the table. If they've got anything left in the tank, they're going to go for it. Well, like these two. That's David Pichota getting ahead of Alex Danda for 11th position on his way down to Vale.
Yes, I believe you're right. 3 laps remaining as we see the leader, Lucas Pichota, deploying a bit of push-to-pass on the Wellington Straight. We see Kadlacek deploying some push-to-pass as well, but no push-to-pass being used from Stefanko or Podstata, as we see the Entropic car get quite close under braking, but not close enough to think about making a move or anything like that. Through Luffield, closes up even closer to the back of Stefanko, but now we're going to get into the part of the track where I think Stefanko is the strongest, which is through Kops, Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel. The high-speed stuff really seems to be where that ESAT car is extremely fast, and he'll probably be able to pull out just a little bit of a gap, just hopefully for his sake, enough of a gap to keep ahead down the Hangar Straight and down towards Stowe. Thankfully for him, Kadlacek does not seem to have as low downforce of a setup compared to Lucas Pichota, but this trio, I have to mention, is continuing to get closer. They found about 7 or 8 tenths of a second on Lucas Pichota over the last couple of laps or so, but again, I fear it's probably not going to be enough as Podstata goes on the attack. He's got the push to pass to use. He's trying to go around the outside through Stowe. Remember, that'll get him the inside line through Vale as well. If he can keep that car alongside, he has done it as well. He needs to be later on the brakes. He does do that, but now again he's going to have to go around the outside. Clips between the two of them. Oh, that's a tough one. I would need to see a slow motion replay on that one. I think Podstata may have turned in a little too early on Kadlacek on that one, but it's tough to call on that one. The stewards are going to have a look at that one, and with only 2 minutes remaining, I imagine that's going to be a post-race investigation.
You never want to see a battle conclude like that. There may have been a little bit of netcode there because it didn't look like they actually came together from my perspective, but we will see as Kashka and David Pichota are continuing with their fight with Danda right behind them as well. So another 3-way fight with potentially Eric Vizzi, if he can close in enough in the closing stages, could well get involved. That lead gap is continuing to shrink, but is it shrinking quick enough? Now that Stefanko is free of any pressure behind, he knows he's got the life in his tyres. He could just do qualifying laps for the remaining, I think it would be 2 laps remaining. It depends where they were when they crossed the line. Unfortunately, we couldn't quite see, but I would suspect
this and one more, I think. Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking as well, as we now see David Pichota lining up a move on Kashka. He's gone for the outside line of Brooklands. Can he get that one done? It's a big move. He's got the inside for Luffield. That should be advantage then, ERT, as David Pichota gets himself back into the top 10. That may work. Well, that probably is. Without a mistake from another driver, that is as good as it's going to get for the second of the ERT cars, as again Kashka thought about a counter-attack coming through Kops. It's not really an overtaking spot unless you're alongside much earlier than that. But right behind Kashka is his teammate, Alex Danda. I mean, You don't normally see the teammates fighting, but we'll see 1.5 seconds. The gap between the two, and that gap has not been decreasing by 1.5 seconds. Final lap, as you can see on the tower. Lucas Pichada, has he done enough? Does he have enough life left in the tyres to keep Martin Stefanko at bay?
A 141.0 last lap is far from the best that Lucas Pichada has been able to do. He's still got some push to pass to use, though, on this final lap, but so does Martin Stefanko, as they both power down towards Brooklands for the final time in this race, and it's still 1.2 seconds. The gap between the two of them, which is great. No DRS, obviously, or anything like that, but Lucas Pichada wants to keep as much of a gap between himself and Stefanko as possible, just to prevent Stefanko from getting that slipstream as much as he can. Although, we have seen throughout the course of this race that even with the slipstream, Stefanko has a hard time reaching higher top speeds at the end of the straight than Lucas Pichada has done. So, into Maggots, Beckett's, and Chapel for the final time in this race. Lucas Pichada keeping everything nice and tidy, but Stefanko keeping things even tidier. He finds 3, maybe even 4/10 of a second, deploys push to pass once again down the hanger straight for the final time in this race as they power down towards Stowe. But I think Lucas Pichada is gonna be able to do enough. 285 kph as he gets into the braking zone for Stowe. It is gonna be enough. It's a few car lengths between the two of them. He gets into the braking zone for the final couple of corners now. Martin Stefanko is gonna have to settle for second position. Lucas Pichada starts the second half of the season in the best possible way by ending that winning streak by Martin Stefanko. He wins here at Silverstone. Martin Stefanko right behind him, pressuring him all the way. Rookie Kadlacek completes the podium positions in his very first race, joining mid-season. An absolutely incredible performance, possibly driver of the day, if you ask me. Kadlacek, less than 3 seconds behind the leading pair as well. Podstata, unfortunately, picking up that collision towards the end of the race that dropped him back, kind of ruined any chance of a podium position for him, but still a really nice drive for him, clearly up to the same sort of level as the top three. Sirotech, again, with that very, very quiet race. And Pilo finishing ahead of Michael Lehman. I have to say, that is a big surprise. We know how fast Michael Lehman is, but Adam Pilo still managing to stay ahead 4/10 of a second, and they're still battling, in fact, for the final points position. Svoboda goes around the outside, and I think that is actually Bruna has run out of fuel, and he's going to lose out on that one championship point as a result. That's unfortunate. You have to feel for him on that one.
Oh, as Kiesel's run out of tyres by the look of that, as he's our last finisher. Familiar cars, two familiar names, but joined with Kadlacek rounding out the podium. So Lucas Pichada starting as he means to go on by half a second in the end, taking the win from Stefanko. Then Podstata, Sirotech, Pilo, Lehman, Nadlik, Hermok, and David Pichada rounding out the top 10. Adam Pilo hung on to that fastest lap, that storming 39.1 until the close of the race. Then it was Kashka, Danda, Vizi, Moritz, Svoboda, Bruna, and Kiesel. Those that didn't see the flag were Mika Shimbera, Thomas Horner, and Pavel Maracek. Such a shame for the big shot cars, both suffering disasters early on in this race.
Yeah, unfortunate for Navitel as well. No points for them this round. But Martin Stefanko still leads 158 points to 142 from Lucas Pichada. 16 points is the gap between the two of them. It's another 51 points down to Lucas Podstata, who finished off of the podium today. Martin Sirotech also finishing off the podium today. A little bit further down, Jan Bruna in 11th position. Thomas Hora, the leading big shot car, he's ahead of his teammate Maracek. Adam Pilo moving up into 17th position with that race. And Martin Kadlacek going straight up into 18th position with those points, immediately getting on the board. Lubomir Moritz as well scoring points, as did Kashka. Vakulchek, the only one who has yet to score points so far in this season. In the team's championship, it is now 20 points between ERT Racing, the Pichada brothers leading ahead of the ESET team of Stefanko and Moritz with Entropic. A further 20 points back, actually. It's 40 points between the top three. That is going to do it for today's race, and it has been an incredible one. I have to say, I really enjoyed that race here at Silverstone. Thanks to Chris Buxton for joining myself, Justin Sutton, here in the commentary booth. Thank you to everybody from the VGP team, all the drivers, everybody for watching at home. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.